The last train isn't empty. It's a mirror that stares back. If you've ever ridden at 1 a.m., you know the windows become black water, and whatever watches you uses your face to do it. Friday, I took the last Eastbound home, and my reflection blinked a beat late, like it wanted to see if I'd notice. I hadn't been drinking, just overtime, stale coffee, and the metallic taste of a day that went too long. The station was almost closed around its own bones when I got there. Half the gates pulled down, a cleaner rolling a yellow bucket, the attendant behind glass with a magazine folded into a tent. The board kept jumping between 6 minutes and 2 and then 7, like it couldn't accept the idea of last anything. A sign near the stairs had a strip of tape over one line I'd never noticed before. Late night operation. Remain in your CR after final chime. Someone had pressed a thumb into the tape while it was still warm. There was a perfect whirl. A guy in a transit vest shuffled past me and muttered, not to me exactly, "Don't ride the last car tonight," and then shook his head like he regretted saying anything. I picked the second car from the end to be petty about it. Inside smelled like brake dust and the lemon they use on everything. It was cold enough that my cheeks felt tight. There were 4 of us. A woman with a crocheted hat and a tote of groceries. A man in paint-splattered pants asleep with his head against the pole. A kid in a hoodie hunched over his phone. And me. The doors shut with that soft kiss and the car lurched. Fluorescent hum filled the silence nobody wanted to own. In the tunnel, the windows stopped showing the world and started showing the car, which is normal. What wasn't normal was how long the reflections took to arrive. I raised my hand to scratch my temple. The man in the glass raised his a fraction later, like we were doing a trust fall with time. I told myself the lights were just strobing out of sync with the train's sway. Still, the hair on my arms had that electric awareness like someone was reading a line off the back of my neck. At the first stop, only 2 people got off. The kid with the hoodie raised his phone halfway, panned it toward the window, and smirked at something I couldn't see. I decided he was live streaming to prove he was awake. An announcement in the same flat voice said, "This is the last Eastbound service. Doors will not reopen. Remain on board until your stop." That line was new to me, but maybe I just never listened, the way you don't listen to your own fridge until it dies. We went dark for a second between stations and I felt the car settle lower, like the rails dipped under a breath. The reflection of the woman in the crocheted hat glanced at me, except she hadn't moved. Her tote said thank you in red block letters in the glass, but when I checked, in real space it was black script. I shifted to the forward-facing bench to get away from my own face. It didn't help. The windows across just stitched me into the car from a new angle, frame noisy with dust. That's when I saw him, behind my reflection, 2 rows up, head tilted like he was listening through glass. I turned around fast and there was no one in those rows, just the paint-splattered man asleep and the mark of a shoe on the floor where someone had braced to stand. I looked back through the window at myself. The man was still there, behind my ghost, very still, hands folded like polite hatred. I tried to get the hoodie kid's attention without saying anything, but he was gone, his seat empty, his phone cord still plugged into a USB port that wasn't lit. At the next stop the doors opened and no one got on. Cold air licked around my ankles and the woman in the hat gathered her tote and moved cars like a person who had heard the same thing I was hearing without words. I didn't follow her because of the sign, because of the man in the vest saying not to ride the last car, because of some kid logic that being still would make me invisible. The car jolted and the lights dimmed and came back in a bluer temperature, like the train had given up daylight for economy mode. In the glass, my reflection's eyes had a little shine they don't have in mine, like a lens had been wiped somewhere I couldn't reach. The man behind me leaned forward in that world, and the tiny hairs at the inside of my elbows tightened. I lifted my phone and opened the camera to make logic behave. On my screen, the window was just black and my own face was a smear. The camera compensated and gave me nothing to hold. I flipped to the forward-facing camera and saw only myself and the empty rows, and that was somehow worse. The PA clicked and rustled and gave me my name in a flat, wrong version, followed by the usual mind the gap. I told myself I had dozed, micro-dreamed, misheard. At the next curve the train leaned and the sound of the wheels rose into a keen that found a place behind my eyes. I felt watched in a way I can't sell to anyone. Not stared at like a stranger checks your shoes, but measured, like the distance between my breath and the glass mattered to something. Then, visible only because dust collected there all week, a circle bloomed on the window opposite, the kind your breath leaves in winter. At first I thought it was HVAC condensation on cold glass, but the circle sat at mouth height and pulsed once, like whoever made it hadn't finished the breath. I stood, and the man behind my reflection stayed seated. Across the car, the ads crackled in their frames. Up close, the fog smelled like mint and pennies, and the pain felt colder around it than anywhere else. I held my palm to it. In the window world, my hand rose late. Another ring bloomed lower. The paint-splattered man was gone. His seat kept its dent. The PA gave a wrong triple chime. "This is the last eastbound service." The voice said, "Doors will not reopen. Remain in your car after the final chime." We slowed at a familiar platform with the color wrong and different grout. The doors opened to no one. In the glass, a fingertip traced a spiral inside the fog ring, the same whirl I'd seen pressed into the taped line on the sign upstairs. The metal pole clicked as if weight left it. I didn't look behind me. The ads creaked once like they'd taken a breath. I told myself to move to the next car, that rules are for crowds, not nights like this. The intercar handle was warm, like a hand had just left it. I pulled. The seal side and the car behind mine showed itself. Lights on, empty, and my seat there occupied by me. My other self sat with elbows on knees, head down, phone in hand. He lifted his head to listen the way I do. Our eyes met in safety glass without meeting in air. He looked past me, mouth tight the way mine gets tasting metal. The PA clicked and patched in my own voice, the one I hate when I hear it recorded. "Do not move between cars after the final chime. This is for your safety." The rhythm wasn't mine. I eased one shoe onto the little metal plate between cars. The plate hummed with the train's whole life. The gap was small. In the reflection, my twin stood and pointed down. On the plate, faint in soot, a chalk circle sat exactly where a kneeling person's breath would meet glass. Something tapped behind my left ear from the wrong height. I shut the door and sat back like sitting could rewind a clock. I put my phone on video, mic gain up, and pointed at the opposite window. I expected noise. Instead, I got the quiet of a house that knows your steps. Lines formed in the ring, a fingertip writing from the other side. The letters were backward until I used the mirror of the far window. "Stay," then a second word my brain read wrong twice before it fit. "Still." The ring pulsed once, as if pleased. We passed a maintenance recess. The walls narrowed, the lights went silver, and the car flattened to a ribbon. In that ribbon I saw the hoodie kid 3 cars up, standing alone in a doorway, phone at his side, head cocked like he was listening to the rail, not the announcements. He looked younger. He lifted his hand like he was waving to someone low to the ground. The recess ended and so did he. My stop slid by without slowing. A couple on the bench stared away as if told, kindly, not to look. I hit the red talk button on the intercom. The hum cut with a click. "State your emergency," the operator said, in a voice that tried to be nowhere. I gave my name and car number, which is printed in tiny digits over the end doors if you've ridden long enough to notice. "There's a person between cars," I said. "Please stop at the next station." I didn't say the person looked like me. We slowed. We didn't open. The PA gave the wrong triple chime again, and the operator used my mother's tone, full name and everything. I swallowed hard enough to pop my jaw. The fog ring swelled and thinned with a breath that wasn't mine. A fingertip tapped twice, then drew a curve that turned the ring into a crude eye. Beyond my own face in that eye, a man sat 2 rows up, head tilted, hands folded like polite hatred, perfectly familiar now. When we finally pulled into a platform, the doors on my side stayed shut. A transit vest appeared beyond the glass, the man who'd warned me. He mouthed, "Don't ride the last car tonight," then stared over my left ear. He pressed his palm to the window. The print had a perfect whirl, same as the tape upstairs. He looked hurt for me, or for himself. The intercom died. The lights went blue. The chime repeated every few minutes, wrong every time. "Stay" still softened, then looked like "stay" until, though maybe I was backfilling strokes in water. When the train opened on the far side, I did not move. Later, I walked home from a different station. Tonight, my bedroom window turns black. If I wait, a circle blooms, mint and pennies and holds. On the second listen in my head, I keep catching the same small error. My reflection blinks when I do, but it smiles a fraction after, like it's relieved I finally learned the rule. I didn't write that rule. I heard it in the taped line, in the chime that didn't belong, in the operator using my mother's voice. Remain in your car after the final chime. Remain still. Remain until. I don't open my window at night. I don't sit in the last car anymore. When the room is quiet, something taps once behind my left ear from a height that doesn't match anyone in my life. I tell myself it's the building. I tell myself stories are smudges we press into glass. Then the circle appears again and I feel watched and I don't turn to see who.